How Kraken corpses and dragon poop influence modern elections in Iberia. I think everyone knows by now that Iberia has faced a ton of hardships when it comes to dragon corpses and Kraken poop. Wait, actually, I think it's the other way around. Of course, it all started way back early when Earth first still just got life on it. You can see as the Kraken sediment formed all throughout modern-day Portugal as well as pretty deep into Spain. And if you don't believe me, this is actually coming from the Geology of Iberia from the University of Madrid, so you know it's real. Now we have to take a look at migration patterns of these dragons. Now, some types require a diet rich in ancient magic, so some of the herbivore dragons will actually graze on the Kraken sediments. As summer continues, they head away for the winter climates. But specific to the region, the Iberian fire drake, which migrates annually from Europe to West Africa, and usually goes to areas with higher fire magic concentration. Fast forward a couple centuries later, and we have the magic academies in the Visigothic era, then the major industrial areas of 1968, of course, still relying on that beautiful sediment set like thousands, even millions of years ago. There was all sorts of stuff they were doing back then. Golem manufacturing, dragon dung mine, it's my favorite industry. Finally, we have the Wizard Worker Solidarity Index as of 2018, and this all leads us back to the 2023 Iberian election, which still has a pretty major impact on everything in this region. As politics goes, it all comes down to like the economy and education, rural versus urban. So glad we finally have a map talking about this. Weird, I've spent years reviewing maps and yet no one has decided to make this. Okay, so that was actually a parody map of this, which is how a coastline 100 million years ago influences modern election results in Alabama. This thing's been around for a while, so I guess someone decided to make a little spoof of it using Kraken and Dragons. Now I just want to know more about this fantasy world. We've learned about Iberia, but what else? Where are the elves and dwarves at? This is amazing, 10 out of 10. What if the continent of Australia was concerningly wide? Here's a map of the giant desert continent as of 2022. I have to admit, yes, I am extremely concerned. Like, how long would it take to drive from, I guess, the city of Tibet all the way over to the city of maybe Sydney? Or how about we go over here, Townsville? Who lives in Townsville again? Is it Timmy Turner? Now, one of the many reasons why we should be heavily concerned about this concerningly wide Australia is, can you imagine how many more dangerous wildlife can fit inside here? I mean, we already know the Australians are barely able to contain it right now, but we want to know if this landmass was like quadruple the size. Would that mean the emus are also 4 times as big? I like how this could also just be seen as Russia, but it's an island. I'm so glad this continent managed to keep Tasmania, though. Wait, what the hell is going on right here? Ooh, also some more lore. 122 million people live here. Also, it's like a giant mixing pot like the US is today. The more I read about it, the less concerned I actually am. Kind of wish this was our reality. Again, this is getting a 10 out of 10 from me. The Union State of the American Empire as of 2023. One thing I love about reviewing some of these maps is trying to figure out the history and lore behind them. Like, how exactly did America get these borders as of 2023? It appears that possibly the South has won the Civil War and they gained their independence, especially because this territory in the North is still the USA. So somehow these managed to gain their freedom, and we do actually know that if they did win, they wanted to start something known as the Golden Circle. Basically, they were going to control all of the Caribbean, everything around the Gulf of Mexico, all the way down here, territories in the northern part of South America. So it looks like in this universe, they got this, but not entirely the way they expected. They did expand out westward. They had their own manifest destiny. They got all of northern Mexico, but it seems like Mexico still managed to keep some of their freedom. And they skipped over the rest of that, got all of Central America, got all of the coastline that Venezuela and Colombia share, and of course all the islands are theirs as well. That wasn't enough for this CSA though, because they also colonized New Zealand, as well as the Philippines and Japan. They didn't even stop there. Someone brought up a very good point that just the Japanese islands and the Philippines together would probably be more population than everything else here. Maybe they should have thought about annexing this part of Mexico as well. See, that's your problem. This nation was too busy focused on golf. How often my Adobe Premiere Pro crashes. I didn't want to think how inefficient this state would be. Like how they were so mad at the North they decided to make their own New England down here. Man, so many 10 out of 10 maps today. Guys, I flooded France, an alternative geography of Western Europe. I like how they just specifically flooded only France. It seems like places like Spain, Italy, and especially the British Isles are all perfectly intact. The French now are just gone though. There's a little archipelago out this way though. I'm trying to think of the historical impact this would have had if this did occur something like 10,000 years ago. I mean, would France still be a pretty massive powerhouse throughout history? I'm gonna say no. My initial thought is that Germany would just completely bully everything out here to the west, but we actually have to go way further than that. We have to assume that this happened like thousands and thousands of years ago. I think it's safe to say that ancient human history wouldn't really change much much. We'd still have the Greeks and the Romans that would probably get this big. They would definitely be able to conquer the Gauls. It might just be maybe a little bit easier. I think the Romans still probably fall to the Germanic invaders. No, like, lack of France is gonna save them from that. I think it's safe to say we'd still have like a Frankish kingdom maybe in 768. There would still be like a Charlemagne empire. This bald dude would just be like way weaker, I guess. Maybe you could say they would just split it up into like 2 different realms, but let's just say the bald guy stays. I actually think just the most likely scenario of a flooded France throughout history is probably a world where England actually wins the 100 Years' War. Remember that England got actually very close to taking over all of France, and then they got pushed back. I think it might be safe to say it would be a little bit easier to conquer this region, so maybe we'd live in a world something like this in the year 1500, except of course France would be more like of a bunch of islands, I guess. I'm not sure if that will discourage or encourage more people to flood France. I guess we can only wait to find out. Very thought-provoking map here, 10 out of 10. World War II, but what if D-Day failed? And more importantly, what if the Soviets were able to get to Germany way faster now? Because remember, for the Allies, there was kind of a race to see who can get to Berlin first in a way. The Soviets were coming no matter what from the Eastern Front. Like, the Germans just could not stop them at this point. But if the British and Americans failed to retake all of France and they just got pushed out immediately, then there would just be this big red communist steamrolling that would happen throughout the entire continent. And that is pretty much exactly what we have here. So instead of Germany being split with a Western democratic side and an Eastern communist side, it's all just the communist side. We also have similar governments probably for the Netherlands, Belgium, and northern France. It looks like even somehow Spain has fallen to communism. I'm not sure how that would happen. I guess with the Soviets getting so far out west, they just found a way to get rid of Francisco Franco here. What's interesting is the Allies still made a successful invasion of Italy though, but famously during WW2, the progress was really slow. So the only parts of Europe that remain the same are the Greeks, Turkey, southern part of Italy. So this is actually like the split country. It's not Germany anymore. I think a free France or something. France is maybe democratic still. Of course, Switzerland is neutral, so nothing impacts them. And then of course, Portugal is saved actually. Do we really want to know what would happen to Finland? I guess Finland would be peaceful. Sweden was also neutral too. This would be quite a messy world, that is for sure. What a crazy Cold War this would be. Can the US even win a Cold War where the Soviets have pretty much the entire continent? Again, this had my brain moving. 10 out of 10. If the Earth was actually in a binary system with the other planet actually being life hosting as well. Now, the most famous example of a binary system in our solar system is Pluto and their moon Charon. They're kind of out here just like rotating against each other. Very adorable. Now just imagine both of them had life on each planet. I don't know how well this one looks like it's going to be doing. This seems to be mostly water. It also seems like this anti-Terra or like anti-Earth is a little bit smaller too. So if everything plays out the same here on Earth, I guess it's probably safe to say that humans would still like rise up. Wait, unless the giant asteroid that oofed all the dinosaurs doesn't actually hit Earth in this universe. What if it accidentally hits the anti-Earth instead, so the dinosaurs are still just roaming free, chilling? So no humans in that scenario. But that's no fun. Let's imagine everything stayed the same. We still have the Greeks and the Romans rising up. I guess the question is, would this anti-Terra here be able to host intelligent life form? I would have to assume the chances are very slim to none. Maybe they have dinosaurs on theirs. That would be crazy. One thing's for sure, by the time Earthlings got intelligent enough to send rockets into space, we definitely have more of an incentive than we have just now. The moon is just kind of like this giant dead rock. So they say that's why we don't really go that often here. But in this universe, when life is so close to us, oh man, we'd be having parties every weekend. Like with a random rock rotating around the Earth every night, this would make the British unstoppable. You know, they'd be the first ones that want to colonize it. What if the Romans actually popped up in North America? So I've seen comparisons like this before, especially because Florida kind of resembles the Italian peninsula. I mean, I literally see like no difference here. Now, it always seemed to me that the Romans were able to really flourish because they were kind of in this inland sea, and they were actually smack dab in the middle of it too. So once they got like a good grasp of boats and stuff, they could just see what's going on everywhere, you know, attack people, trade, you know, just do whatever they want. They could kind of do something similar here as well. They can kind of go to Mexico, the deep south. Now, Of course, this is a completely different deep south in Mexico than we know it today, because it's like before the Spanish and English colonies. Or wait a second, how do we know that the Romans or the Roman capital didn't start from the Great Lakes? I guess they could have technically popped up somewhere over here. Ah, yes, Nova Scotia is this world's Britannia. Love this small reference right here, Norse Vinland. So this is a world where Norway has made it to Canada still. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of a war. Vikings versus Romans. You can only excite me so much. Nova Sardinia, that's the new island for Cuba. I want to watch them keep expanding though. Like I would assume, well, first of all, I think their capital is here. It's this island. I've got to assume they would be colonizing like all of the coastline. They'd be getting all the way down to Venezuela and Colombia down this way. Interesting they decided to move up north though instead. Wait, so are the barbarians in this universe the Native Americans? And will that ultimately lead to the demise of this American Rome? Oh my god, they're Floridians. So they're insane warriors, that's for sure. Imagine this universe if they somehow make it to discover Europe. What would even be going on there? The Anglo-Spanish Union in 1530. So we talked about a possible Anglo-French Union in the 100 Years' War. Here's if England and Spain actually combined. Now remember that Spain was a part of that whole Habsburg Empire, but maybe this map is a little bit too late in the universe we're dealing with. Castile did get a hold of Aragon though, and then they formed Spain, and then Aragon had the southern part of the Italian peninsula. So that is why in this universe, the Anglo-Spanish Union have all of this. And then right now, the Anglo part is just England and Ireland. They haven't taken out Scotland just yet, but I think that's got to be only a matter of time. And then when it comes to colonization, we do have like a strange 13 colonies, but it's been shifted towards the south, possibly because Spain has kind of already got here. So they're like, oh, okay, we'll just set up shop somewhat close to Florida. They're still going after Mexico. They're still going after the Caribbean. I wonder if this would actually slow down all the colonization. If this is just one empire, maybe they aren't as focused. Maybe that gives France and Portugal even more of a chance to eat up everything in the New World. Who knows? Maybe someone else even gets involved. Maybe the Dutch get more than just like Indonesia out this way, or maybe Norway gets to Canada because England is focused more on the like part around the equator, or there's like a stronger French Quebec. There's a lot of possibilities here. This might just like distract them because there's just so much administration that they would have to do. This would maybe slow them both down. As always, 10 out of 10. A country ball alt history map somewhere in World War I, but zombies. There's just zombies. A disease has spread across Europe. I've been noticing there's been like a recent obsession with like country ball zombies, and I'm totally here for it. I feel like this has got to be the cutest form of a zombie I've ever seen. They're just balls. So World War I might have needed to be halted. Also, there's a German Civil War going on. Belgium looks like they definitely got invaded. I don't know. Something just gives me, it's a hunch. It's a hunch. Meanwhile, France looks like they might be going through some sort of fascist regime. I mean, when zombies invade, like governments are going to do some really crazy things. Denmark has decided to just leave the peninsula. I think they're just hiding up here with Sweden. There are some Germans that are looking like they're coming back through the Baltic Sea. Maybe they were like in Russian lands and they're trying to help out. There seems to be maybe a democratic / monarchist civil war. We have one side still wanting to like support a king. The other side just wants democracy. Meanwhile, on the outer edges, zombies are invaded. Like this doesn't seem to be the time, guys. You just look like you're gonna make yourself blow up. That actually is like a communist ball, isn't it? This dude doesn't even know what team he's on. Oh, I think this also might be a little bit of no-no Germans as well. So it might be like a crazy five-way war. The Netherlands, which were neutral in WW1, seem to have been seeing something. They seem traumatized. Maybe that's the zombie invasion. Yeah, so there's communists, no-no Germans, democracy Germans, and then the monarchist Germans. We got everything here. It's a huge trifecta. I almost completely missed that too. I just love the absolute chaos of this map. It seems like the western side might be more communist, the Bavarian side more fascist. These two are just fighting. Meanwhile, Poland's just trying to survive. Seems like Poland's here and they're just happy to be around. It is until the zombies get over there. Can just never have a good ending. Really enjoyed just all the things that were actually happening here. Didn't realize there was so much going on. America, the four-state treaty, or basically after a Civil War 2.0. I have to admit, I have never actually seen borders portrayed like this before, so that's pretty nice. Of course, the Dixies are back and they're actually much bigger than they were in like the 1860s. They have New Mexico, Oklahoma, and they even actually have West Virginia. West Virginia has flipped sides. They might as well just make this big Virginia again. We also just have the United States of America. They've had to change their flag because a lot of the stars left. I like the design though, but unfortunately they didn't get a lot of the Pacific states. They decided to do their own thing. This is now the Social Democratic Union of America. I'm surprised this side just didn't join Canada at this point. So obviously this stretches all the way from Washington to California, but I really like that they didn't just like go with the normal USA borders. They did something unique and different. They followed more geographical things. I mean, they completely changed all of the states and borders and things like that. I just want to know how we pulled down Arizona. Like, that's the surprising part, I think. I guess they couldn't join the USA. They were just too geographically isolated, so they decided to join the green side. Does this have Denver? I'm pretty sure Denver would maybe join the green side too. And we changed all the states back to like Native American names. We got the Shoshone. Finally, the most interesting of them all, the autonomous cantons of America, or basically just, well, Florida. So they're going with more of like a Swiss strategy here. I don't even really know what's going on. I think they wanted to be neutral. They didn't feel like they exactly fit into the Dixie part of the country anymore. I feel like they would pull in Atlanta somehow. Like Atlanta, Georgia would maybe join this too to make it even crazier. The problem with this, like Switzerland in America, is they only border one nation. I think what makes Switzerland so neutral is that they border like 3 different countries, so they have to stay neutral. I feel like the Dixies are just gonna invade and not even think twice. Like, who's really gonna save them? Like, you know, it wouldn't be fun though. I mean, the Floridians would send like the alligators after them. That would be tough to have to fight through. Does anyone want to try to predict which side would be the most powerful? That would be extremely difficult. I will say that. 10 out of 10 for just originality and just being such a super different type of Civil War scenario. My favorite part is libertarian Florida. Like, that's like, I've never seen that. And big thank you to my patrons: Drew's Goth Girlfriend, Triv44, aka Drew Come to Krakow, Polandnextvacation, Twickenhamster, Drew's Argentinian Grandpa, $20 is a lot, Drew, Selene, Wildfang, Bryton Is,
Carmel Saida,
DJ, McSkillet,
LuxembourgLover,
Patrick,
Allison,
Robert E,
RyeThePie,
the Polish Lithuanian
the
Commonwealth,
Mexican 760,
Veiotic,
and ZaneyBoi.